I love early voting. That's right, I'm going to vote early. Don't worry, I'm not going to start boring you guys with these sunrise videos every day. I just happen to be going to early voting. Thought I'd turn on the camera as I often do. But I was inspired after hearing a news story the other day. Before the most current polls came out, there was a poll that, I don't know, Gallup or somebody, Rasmussen or somebody did, that claimed, in early voting, Obama is, like 60% to 40% or something like that. I think Romney was even in the 30s. And I thought, you bunch of goobers in the media trying to persuade people or dissuade people or manipulate voting. And you guys realize how they do their polls, right? They sample, and they've actually admitted this in print. They haven't admitted it as far as I've ever heard anyone say it, but in the fine print, they'll talk about their sampling, and they'll call 6 Democrats and 4 Republicans. And of course, if I were to call 6 Democrats and ask them who they were going to vote for or who they did vote for, they would say Obama, whether they did or not. That's the thing about polling, is that some people, and this has happened in elections in the past, where they'll poll people and ask them, and they'll tell you that they voted for the person in their party, but that's not necessarily how it went down in the booth. Anyway, the story fired me up, and it was basically one of those liberal media stories, trying to fire up the liberal base and dissuade conservatives from voting. So I thought to myself, that means I need to get out and early vote. It seems like election day is always busy for some reason. It's almost like a liberal conspiracy against me or something. So early voting will take care of any kind of problems I might run into on election day. While I'm waiting on traffic, I did want to just mention one thing about Gary Johnson and independent voters. As you may know, I just turned 50. The first president I voted for, I had just turned 18 in time to vote for Ronald Reagan. And that was actually, honestly, the last election that I can remember I was actually excited about as far as the candidate. Of course, I grew up in a conservative home, so I knew a lot about conservatism. I was taught a lot about conservatism. My point I want to make to Gary Johnson supporters is this. Gary Johnson has no way of winning the election. You can vote for him, and I'm trying to say this in a nice way. You can vote for him out of principle, and that's nice. But all you're doing is helping. If Obama wins, you will have voted for Obama. I hope you understand that, because as we've seen, there are 47%, and of course most of us who understand politics understand this, that there is a base that will vote for Obama no matter what he does. Conservatives tend to be more objective, and I consider myself a very objective person. I actually like Gary Johnson. Heck, I supported Ron Paul for 20 years. The problem is Ron Paul can't get elected, and neither can Gary Johnson. And all I'm trying to do is inject some objectivity into Gary Johnson supporters. If you understand the electoral process, going back to the primary process and the two-party system that we are stuck with now, it's not a great system, but that's what we're dealing with right now. And another argument I want to make is that most people don't do anything about politics until it's time to vote. They won't develop a candidate or support a candidate and get him known, get him name recognition before the election process starts to, the past 3 years. I didn't even hear about Gary Johnson because I was a Ron Paul supporter. I probably hadn't even heard of him until probably 6 months ago. And so what you're up against as a Gary Johnson supporter is nobody's going to vote for him. Well, his supporters are going to vote for him, but there's such small numbers. There's no way that he can win. Just look at the Electoral College. Just look at that process. There's just not enough votes to get him elected. Now, like I said earlier, you can vote for him out of principle, and that's great. But you're not accomplishing anything. The only thing you're accomplishing is you're maybe making yourself feel good that you voted for Gary Johnson. But in reality, in practicality, you have done nothing but possibly help get Obama reelected. And if you do that, and I have to challenge whether you're an actual conservative or not, or an independent, or whatever you call yourself. I would say that if you look deep into your own heart, you may have some liberal. I'm on a bumpy road. It's making my voice vibrate. Where was I? Oh man, I really didn't want this to be a long video, but it's hard to get your point across on political issues. It is for me anyway. Like I said, I supported Ron Paul for how long has he been? How many times has he run for president? 2 or 3? I mean, obviously he got elected to Congress, and that's great. He's probably done more good in Congress than he would have if he was elected president. Because honestly, Ron Paul is a doer. He's the kind of guy who likes to get things done. And honestly, unless you have a Congress that's willing to work with you, the president can't get a lot done. Trust me, if Obama had a liberal Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, if they were both liberal, dominated, we would have gun control. Obamacare would probably already be implemented. You'd have all those kind of policies enacted already. The only reason that we haven't is because the House is controlled by Republicans. But that's why our political process works. Our separation of powers and all of that. I want Gary Johnson supporters to do video responses and tell me they honestly think they can get Gary Johnson elected. All you have to do is look at the primary numbers. If you think people are going to come out in droves and vote for Gary Johnson during the election, they're not. Okay, what did Ron Paul get? 3% of the total? I mean, come on, guys. All I'm asking you to be is real. That's all I'm asking is for you to objectively look at what you're doing. So anyway, I'm not trying to talk you into voting for anybody. I am trying to talk you out of voting for Obama. I honestly believe that if Obama gets another 4 years, we're in trouble. He'll be a lame duck president. He won't have any worries. If he gets elected, that means most likely that those liberals running for Senate and House seats could get elected. If there's that many people actually voting for Obama, then that means that you could actually see a change in the House too. I don't think this is going to happen. I'm just telling you what could happen. So in that case, if you have a liberal president and a liberal Congress and a lame duck president who doesn't have to worry about being reelected, he can just retire on his government pension and live comfortably for the rest of his life, and also brag about how he socialized America. That's not a good combination. Sorry, one last thing. I have to throw in my pitch for voter ID requirements. You'll notice that about a year ago, or you may not have known this, but about a year ago, Tennessee passed a law requiring, picture ID, proper ID to vote. And I think that's great. And you'll also notice that Obama didn't have the kahunas to mess with Tennessee. He went after, I forgot, what states did he go after? Was it Arkansas? Or was it Arizona? He went after a few states on their voter ID laws, but I just think it's funny. He knew not to mess with Tennessee when it came to that kind of stuff. Hi.
Are you kidding me? Ready to go? Turn the phone off. Next, please. Waiting for you.
All right. That was fun, and I feel good. I always feel good after voting. Now I can complain, gripe, and moan. I have a right to complain and gripe and moan now. For my independent brothers and sisters, you will see that I did vote for 2 independents. And I would like to, the point I'd like to make there is that those were state and local representatives, and that is where those people will make the biggest impact for me anyway. So I know that Gary Johnson can't get elected, and so I'm voting for Mitt Romney, who I think can get elected, and the main purpose there is to defeat Obama. I'm not a big Mitt Romney fan. I'm more of a Ron Paul fan. The problem with Ron Paul is that he cannot get his basically foreign policy in line with what's practical. We can't isolate ourselves, from the rest of the world. We have to take a part. We have to at least be a player in the national scene. I'm not talking about nation building and war mongering and all that, but we do have to pretty much, and I'm not talking about spending half our national budget on it either. I'm just saying you have to have more of an outreach there, I think. And I think that extends our borders. That's my philosophy on that. Is that if we do, I don't know, that's a long deep subject. That's another whole video. But anyway, my point is, I think you have to really study politics, understand the electoral process, and then make practical voting decisions. I see a lot of people making emotional voting decisions, and after I make my objective decision, then I get happy, then I get emotional. But I vote based on objectivity and practicality. I'd write my own name in there if I was, going to be selfish about this thing. I actually did that. Well, instead of voting for McCain, I wrote my own name in. And see, I didn't get elected, did I? And neither will Gary Johnson. So, anyway, I've harped on the Gary Johnson thing enough, I guess. But just trying to reach out to those Gary Johnson supporters, just like I'm a Ron Paul supporter. He just couldn't come up with the votes. So I'm not going to waste my vote. I just can't do it. And it's too valuable. It's too my vote is too valuable in this election to waste on someone who can't get elected. So, unless Gary Johnson voters can show me any kind of national poll that says he has any chance in heck to get elected, I'm not going to apologize either. So, anyway, go out, early vote, and have a good time doing it, and earn your right to gripe and moan and about the political process. Thanks, guys. Now I gotta get to work.